The alert came at 300 hours, piercing through the quiet night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Hayes jerked awake in his chair, coffee splashing across his desk as the console erupted in flashing red warnings. He had been monitoring the outer system for 5 years, and never once had the long-range array detected anything like this. "Amy, get over here," Daniel called to the communications specialist across the room. Amy pushed away from her station and jogged over, her dark eyes widening as she saw the readings. "Is that what I think it is?" she whispered. Daniel nodded slowly. "It's a distress signal, alien origin, and it's strong enough that whoever sent it put everything they had into the transmission." Amy's fingers flew across the keyboard, running the signal through the translation algorithms. The computers had been programmed with every theoretical linguistic pattern humanity could imagine, but no one really expected to use them. Earth had been alone in the galaxy for so long that most people stopped believing anyone else was out there. The translation software churned for nearly 10 minutes before words began appearing on the screen. Daniel read them aloud, his voice growing quieter with each line. "To anyone who can hear this message, we are the of Sanctuary 7. We are under attack. Our colony is dying. The Empire has come to our world without warning or provocation. They are killing us for sport. Our shields are failing. Our people are hiding in underground shelters, but it is only a matter of time. We are a peaceful people. We have no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight back. If there is anyone out there, anyone at all, please help us. We do not want to die. Our children do not deserve this fate. Please, if you can hear this, come quickly. We are running out of time." The message repeated in a loop, the same desperate plea over and over. Amy wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Daniel reached for the comm unit, his fingers shaking slightly. "This is Monitor Station Alpha to Earth Defense Command. Priority Alpha emergency. We have received an alien distress signal. I repeat, confirmed alien contact, and they are requesting immediate assistance." The response came faster than Daniel expected. Within the hour, Admiral appeared on the video screen, her gray hair pulled back tight and her expression carved from stone. Behind her, Daniel could see the chaos of the command center, officers rushing between stations, screens filled with data. "Lieutenant Commander Hayes, I need you to send me everything you have on that signal. Location, strength, estimated distance, everything." "Yes, ma'am. Sanctuary 7 is approximately 17 light-years from Earth. The signal is degraded from traveling that distance, but we estimate it was sent within the last week. The attackers are identified as the Empire, but we have no data on who or what they are." Admiral's jaw tightened. 17 light-years, 6 days by hyperspace if we push the engines. 6 days, and we don't know if anyone will still be alive when we get there. "Ma'am, what are we going to do?" Daniel asked. He already knew the answer, but he needed to hear her say it. "We're going to answer their call, Commander. Earth doesn't turn its back on people who need help." She turned away from the screen, shouting orders to someone off camera. "Get me Captain Turner. Tell him the Valiant launches in 4 hours with full combat load, and someone find out what the hell it is." 4 hours later, Captain Jason Turner stood on the bridge of the EDS Valiant, watching Earth shrink in the viewport. His ship was humanity's and most advanced warship, bristling with and missile tubes, powered by fusion reactors that could push them faster than any vessel Earth had ever built. Behind the Valiant, 2 sister ships kept pace, the EDS Guardian and the EDS. Together, they represented the full strength of Earth's deep space fleet. "All stations report ready, Captain," said his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Daniel Hayes, who had been rushed up from the monitoring station to serve as the fleet's alien contact specialist. Jason nodded. "Take us out, helm, maximum speed to Sanctuary 7. As the 3 ships engaged their hyperspace drives and reality twisted around them, Jason walked slowly around his bridge, looking at each member of his crew. They were young, most of them, and none had ever seen real combat. Earth's wars were a generation in the past, ancient history to these men and women. But they had trained hard and they were ready. They had to be. Major Lisa Brooks, his Marine commander, stood near the tactical station, studying the limited data they had on the. She was a compact woman with muscles like steel cables and a reputation for never backing down from anything. "What do you think we're flying into, Captain?" she asked quietly. "I think we're about to find out if all those stories about Earth being are true," Jason replied. "The galaxy doesn't know us yet, Major. They don't know what humans can do when we're pushed." Lisa repeated, a thin smile crossing her face. They have no idea. Jason had read the theories 100 times. Earth was rated as one of the most hostile planets in the galaxy by the estimates. Crushing gravity, violent weather, aggressive predators, and disease everywhere. Humanity had evolved in a combat zone, shaped by millions of years of surviving in hell. Humans could run for hours without stopping, heal from injuries that would kill most species, fight through pain that would drop an alien in its tracks, and adapt to almost anything. But those were just theories. Humanity had never met another intelligent species before, never tested themselves against alien soldiers, never fought an actual war in space. 6 days to Sanctuary 7, Jason said, more to himself than anyone else. 6 days to find out what humanity is really made of. Far across the galaxy, on the dying colony of Sanctuary 7, Elder huddled in the darkness of the underground shelter with 200 other survivors. The children were crying. The emergency lights were failing. Above them, the warships continued their methodical bombardment, slowly crushing every structure on the surface. Had sent the distress signal 3 days ago, pouring every bit of power they had left into the transmission array before it was destroyed. He had no way of knowing if anyone received it, no way of knowing if anyone was coming. A young named crept close to him in the darkness. Elder, will anyone answer? Is anyone out there? Placed a gentle hand on the child's head. His people had never encountered hostile aliens before. They were scholars and artists, builders and dreamers. They had no weapons, no concept of war, no way to fight the monsters who had come to slaughter them. I do not know, little one, said softly. I can only hope that somewhere in this vast galaxy someone heard our cry and that they care enough to come. Above the planet, Commander watched the bombardment with satisfaction. These were weak, pathetic creatures who barely fought back. His empire had conquered 14 species in the last century, and each victory had been easier than the last. The galaxy, it seemed, was filled with cowards. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sanctuary 7 system, and what Captain Jason Turner saw made his blood run cold. 12 warships hung in orbit around the planet, their weapons blazing as they fired down at the surface. Even from this distance, Jason could see the fires burning across the continents, the massive scars where cities had been reduced to ash. Tactical, give me numbers, Jason ordered, forcing his voice to stay calm. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Hayes worked his console, pulling in data from every sensor. 12 hostile vessels, Captain. They us 3-1, scanning the planet now. I'm detecting life signs, thousands of them, but they're scattered and faint. Most are underground. They're still alive, Major Lisa Brooks said from her position behind the captain's chair. We got here in time. Barely, Jason muttered. He opened the fleet-wide channel. Guardian, this is Valiant Actual, Battle Formation Delta. All weapons hot, we're going in. The 3 human ships accelerated toward the planet, their fusion drives burning bright against the darkness. On the bridge of the Valiant, every crew member sat at their station, hands steady, eyes forward. They had trained for years for a moment like this, but training was nothing like the real thing. The ships detected them almost immediately. One of the alien warships broke orbit and moved to intercept, followed by 3 more. Jason watched them come, studying their formation and speed. They move like they're in a parade, he said quietly. Predictable spacing, textbook approach vectors, they fight by the book. Maybe that's all they've ever needed, Daniel replied. The distress signal said they were peaceful, no weapons, no military, they probably haven't fought anyone who could fight back in a long time. Then they're about to get a nasty surprise, Jason said. Helm pattern Sierra 7, let's see if they can keep up. The Valiant suddenly rolled 90 degrees and dropped, the Guardian and splitting to opposite sides in a maneuver that would have torn apart a ship built by any less aggressive species. Earth's gravity trained humans to build strong, and every system on human ships could handle forces that would crush normal vessels. The ships tried to adjust, but they were too slow, their formations too rigid. The human ships cut through them like sharks through fish, hammering at close range, missiles spiraling out in complex patterns that confused the alien point defense systems. Commander stood on his command deck, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. The 3 small ships had somehow slipped through his entire formation and were now behind his lead squadron. Worse, they were actually landing hits. Impossible. His shields should have held. His ships were superior in every way. All units converge on the intruders, he ordered. Destroy them immediately. The fleet tried to reform, but the humans refused to fight the way wars were supposed to be fought. They darted and weaved, used the planet's gravity well to slingshot into unexpected angles, fired from ranges that no sane commander would attempt, and somehow made the shots count. It was chaos. It was undisciplined. It was working. They're like nothing we've encountered before, his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. They move too fast, maneuver too hard. Our computers can't predict their next position. It's like they're ignoring basic physics. They're not ignoring physics, growled. They're just built stronger than anyone else. He leaned forward, studying the data streaming in. Where are these creatures from? Unknown, Commander. They responded to the distress signal. Initial scans show they call themselves humans from a planet called Earth. Beyond that, we have no information. Felt something he had not experienced in decades of conquest. Uncertainty. These humans had jumped into a fight where they were badly outnumbered without hesitation. Either they were suicidally brave, or they knew something he did not. On the surface of Sanctuary 7, heard the explosion of another bombardment strike somewhere above them. The shelter shook, dust falling from the ceiling. Children whimpered in the darkness. They had been trapped down here for 4 days now, with no food and precious little water. Soon the would simply dig them out and finish the job. Suddenly grabbed his arm. Elder, listen, the bombardment has stopped. Went still, the young one was right. For the first time in days, the constant thunder of weapons fire from orbit had ceased. Either they had run out of targets or something had distracted them. He crawled to the shelter's emergency console and managed to activate the long-range scanner. It took a moment to power up, but when the display finally flickered to life, felt his heart skip. There were new ships in orbit, smaller vessels moving with incredible speed, engaging the fleet. Someone came, he whispered. Someone actually came. All around the shelter, crowded around the scanner, watching the battle unfold above them. They could barely understand what they were seeing. The new ships were outnumbered 4-1, yet they seemed to be winning. They moved like predators, struck like lightning, and refused to give ground. Who are they? Asked. I don't know, replied. But they're fighting for us. They're fighting when they could have simply left. Whatever they are, they're giving us a chance to survive. Back in orbit, the battle continued to rage. The Valiant took a hit to her forward shields, the entire ship shuddering from the impact. Sparks flew from a console near the back of the bridge, and damage control teams rushed to contain the fire. Shields at 60%, Daniel reported. But we took out another one of theirs. They're down to 9 ships. Jason watched the tactical display, calculating angles and trajectories in his head. They were trying to reform into a defensive sphere, probably hoping to overwhelm the humans with focused fire. It was a good strategy if your enemy was willing to back off. Humans were not. All ships concentrate fire on their flagship, Jason ordered. Hit them with everything we have. I want that commander to know he picked the wrong fight. The 3 human vessels converged on the massive command ship, their weapons blazing. Slugs moving at a fraction of light speed slammed into the shields, followed by nuclear-tipped missiles that detonated in brilliant flashes. The flagship tried to turn away, tried to bring its heavier guns to bear, but it was too slow. Commander felt his ship rocking under the sustained assault. Warning lights blazed across every console. His shield generators were failing. His hull was taking damage. Around him, officers shouted reports of casualties and system failures. Sir, we need to withdraw, his tactical officer pleaded. We cannot win this engagement. Wanted to argue, wanted to deny it, but the numbers did not lie. 3 small human ships had torn his fleet apart. Already 4 of his vessels were destroyed, 2 more were crippled and drifting, and his own flagship was barely holding together. The humans fought with a savagery he had never witnessed, a complete disregard for their own safety combined with lethal efficiency. Signal all ships to fall back to jump range, he finally ordered, the words like poison in his mouth. Prepare to retreat. The fleet began to pull away from the planet, their formations ragged and broken. Jason watched them go, his finger hovering over the pursuit order. He could chase them, finish them off, but his real mission was the below. Let them run, he said finally. Major Brooks, prep your Marines for surface deployment. We've got people to rescue. Lisa nodded sharply and headed for the elevator. Within minutes, she was in the launch bay, addressing 3 companies of Earth Marines. They stood in neat rows, wearing powered armor that made them look like armored titans, carrying weapons that could cut through steel. "Listen up," Lisa said, her voice carrying across the bay. "Down there are civilians who have been under attack for days. Men, women, children, all of them scared and hurt and wondering if they're going to die. We're going to show them that Earth doesn't abandon people in need. We're going to bring them home, every single one of them. You understand me?" "Yes, ma'am," 200 voices shouted in unison. "Then let's go be heroes." The dropships hit the ground hard, their landing gear crushing the rubble of what had once been a city. The rear ramps dropped before the ships fully settled, and Earth Marines poured out into the smoke and dust. Major Lisa Brooks was the first one down, her rifle up and scanning for threats. "Spread out and secure the perimeter," she ordered. "First squad, find me those shelters. Second and third, watch our backs. They still have ground forces somewhere out here." The Marines moved with practiced efficiency, decades of Earth combat training driving every action. They had trained in mountains and deserts, jungles and Arctic waste, every hostile environment their home planet could throw at them. This burned-out alien city was just another battlefield. Sergeant led his squad through the ruins, using hand signals to direct his people into covering positions. His armor's sensors picked up movement ahead, multiple contacts, heavily armed. Ground troops, probably a rear guard left behind to finish off any survivors. "Contact front 50 meters, said quietly into his comm. 10 hostiles, combat armor, heavy weapons." "Engage at your discretion," Lisa replied. "We're not here to play nice with these murderers." Grinned inside his helmet. "You heard the Major, light them up." The Marines opened fire and the Never had a chance. Earth's infantry weapons punched through the alien armor like paper. They tried to return fire, their plasma weapons scorching the air, but the Marines moved too fast, used cover too well, and seemed to shrug off hits that should have dropped them. One soldier managed to put 3 plasma bolts into Corporal Helen Price's chest plate. The armor held barely, but the heat transfer was enough to cause serious burns. Helen grunted, stumbled back a step, then raised her rifle and put 2 rounds through the center mass. She kept fighting, kept moving, ignoring pain that would have incapacitated most species. The squad broke and ran. Let them go. They had bigger concerns than hunting down scared soldiers. They needed to find the shelters before they decided to bomb them from orbit again. "This way," one of his Marines called out. "I've got life signs, lots of them, 30 meters underground." Led his squad to a collapsed building where his sensors showed a reinforced bunker below. The entrance was blocked by tons of rubble from the bombardment. He examined it for a moment, then turned to his demo specialist. "Can you get us through?" "Give me 2 minutes." While the demolitions expert set charges, contacted Lisa on the command channel. "Major, we found a shelter. Looks like at least 200 people inside, but the entrance is blocked. We're breaching now." "Copy that. Once you're through, get them to the extraction point. Guardian reports 3 more ships incoming. We don't have much time." Below ground, heard the muffled explosions above them. For a moment, he thought they had come to dig them out after all. Then he heard something else. Voices, speaking in a language the translator embedded in his communication device struggled to interpret. "Hello," a voice called down through the hole that had been blasted in the ceiling. "Is anyone down there? We're here to help. We received your distress signal." His hands shook as he activated his translator and pointed it at the opening. "We are here. We are, please. We have many wounded, many children." "We're coming down. Don't be alarmed by our appearance. We're going to get you out of here." A figure dropped through the opening, landing in a crouch that should have shattered bone from that height. But the armored being simply stood up, its helmeted head scanning the shelter. Behind the dark visor, looked at the huddled in the darkness and felt his stomach twist. They looked so fragile, so scared. Some were injured, bleeding from wounds that had gone untreated for days. The children were thin and pale, clinging to adults who barely looked stronger. "My God," he whispered. Then louder, "It's okay. You're safe now. We're from Earth and we're going to take you home." More Marines dropped down into the shelter, carrying medical supplies and emergency rations. Watched them with wide eyes, these strange creatures who moved with such power and confidence. One of them, a young soldier who introduced himself as Private Hart, knelt down in front of her. "Hey there," said gently, pulling off his helmet so she could see his face. "What's your name?" As she whispered, "That's a pretty name. Are you hurt?" She shook her head, smiled, and reached into his pack, pulling out a ration bar. "You hungry? I've got food. It's not great, but it'll help." Took the bar with trembling hands and bit into it. It was the first food she had eaten in 2 days. Tears ran down her face as she chewed. Stayed with her, talking quietly, while around them the other Marines organized the evacuation. Approached the translator device held up between them. "You came so far," the elder said. "You risked your lives for people you do not know. Why?" Looked at the old alien, thinking about how to answer. Finally, he said simply, "Because you asked for help, and leaving people to die when we could save them isn't something humans do. Your people must be very brave." "Our people are stubborn," corrected with a slight smile. "We're from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We learned not to back down from a fight, and we learned to take care of each other. Those lessons stuck." Outside the shelter, the situation was deteriorating fast. The 3 ships that Guardian had detected dropped out of orbit, their weapons targeting the human positions. Lisa coordinated the evacuation while simultaneously calling in fire support from the ships above. "We need more time," she shouted into her comm as plasma fire rained down around her position. "There are still 6 more shelters we haven't reached." "Working on it," Captain Jason Turner replied from the Valiant. "Guardian, adjust orbital position and provide cover for our ground teams. Light up anything that moves toward those Marines." The human warships opened fire. They're sending slugs down through the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds. The ships tried to evade, but Captain Turner had learned their patterns now. He knew how they thought, how they moved. Each shot was calculated, predicted, leading the target perfectly. One ship took a direct hit to its main reactor and exploded in a ball of fire. The other 2 pulled back, unwilling to face the humans head-on again. On the ground, got his refugees out of the shelter and moving toward the extraction point. They were slow, exhausted and weak from days without proper food or water. The Marines ended up carrying many of them, children on their backs, wounded in their arms. Even in full combat armor carrying heavy loads, the Marines moved faster than they could pursue. Lieutenant Collins held the perimeter with his squad, laying down covering fire while the evacuation continued. A armored vehicle rounded a corner and opened fire with its main gun. The plasma bolt took in the shoulder, spinning him around and burning through the outer layers of his armor. He hit the ground hard, pain shooting through his entire body. For a moment he thought that was it, he was done. Then training took over. He rolled behind cover, switched his rifle to his good arm and kept firing. A soldier tried to rush his position. Shot him twice in the chest and once in the head, then had to roll again as another plasma bolt scorched the rubble where he had been crouched. "Collins is hit," one of his squad reported. "He needs medical." "Negative," gasped. "I can still fight. Focus on getting these people out." Helen appeared beside him, her own armor scorched and damaged. She slapped a medical patch on his shoulder without asking permission, the automated system injecting painkillers and sealing the wound. "Stubborn idiot," she muttered, "but that's what makes us human, right?" "Right," agreed, and together they held the line. By the time all the shelters were evacuated, the human Marines had been fighting for 4 hours straight. They were exhausted, wounded, running low on ammunition. But every single survivor was on the drop ships heading up to the waiting fleet. Lisa did a final of her Marines as they boarded the last transport. 3 dead, 17 wounded, but 243 Marines still combat effective. Against the ground forces, they had been outnumbered nearly 3-1. They had won anyway. "All units, this is actual," she said over the comm. "Good work down there, you did Earth proud, now let's go home." As the transport lifted off, sat beside, looking out the window at the ruined planet below. "Will they come back?" she asked quietly. Glanced at who nodded once. "We're not going to let them," said. "Captain Turner has a plan. They are about to learn what happens when you threaten innocent people and Earth finds out about it." In orbit, Captain Turner watched the last transport dock with the Valiant. All were safe. The primary mission was complete. But as he studied the tactical plot, watching the reinforcements gathering at the edge of the system, he made a decision that would change everything. "Navigation, plot a pursuit course," he ordered. "We're not done here." Lieutenant Commander Daniel Hayes turned in his chair. "Sir, our orders were to rescue the... We've done that. Are you sure about this?" Jason looked at his first officer, his expression hard. They said they attacked without provocation, killed for sport. If we just leave now, they will assume we're weak. They'll attack again, hit another peaceful species, maybe come for the again when we're not around. We need to send a message. We need to make sure they understand that there are consequences for this kind of brutality. Around the bridge, the crew waited. Finally, Daniel nodded. Then let's send them a message they'll need. The reinforcement fleet consisted of 8 warships, fresh and undamaged, their crews eager to avenge the defeat their comrades had suffered. They expected to find the humans retreating, maybe trying to slip away with their rescued refugees. Instead, they found 3 human ships accelerating directly toward them at combat speed. Commander watched from his rebuilt command deck aboard a replacement flagship. The humans had mauled his first fleet, true, but that was when they had the element of surprise. Now he had proper intelligence, proper formations, and numerical superiority. This time would be different. All ships maintain formation, he ordered. Let them come to us. We will crush them with concentrated fire. But even as he gave the order, something nagged at his mind. These humans had charged into battle outnumbered once before. They had won. Now they were doing it again, and they still looked confident. Either they were insane, or they knew something he did not. On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Jason Turner studied the formation with cold calculation. They were set up for a standard fleet engagement, ships in a defensive sphere designed to provide overlapping fields of fire. It was textbook tactics, the kind taught in every military academy in the galaxy, the kind that worked against enemies who followed the same rules. They still don't get it, Jason said quietly to Daniel. They think we're going to fight them on their terms. What's the plan, Captain? Daniel asked. We're going to do what we did before. We're going to move faster, hit harder, and refuse to play by their rules. Guardian, break left on my mark, break right. We're going to split their formation and take them apart piece by piece. The 3 human ships dove into the formation like wolves attacking a flock of sheep. Guardian peeled off to port, her hammering at the left flank. Mirrored the maneuver to starboard, missiles streaking through space in complex patterns that the point defense systems could not track. And Valiant went straight up the middle, every weapon firing, daring to stop her. It was chaos, beautiful, calculated chaos. They tried to adjust their formation, tried to bring their superior firepower to bear, but they were always one step behind. The humans moved in 3 dimensions while the thought in 2. Human weapons fired from angles that should have been impossible. Human ships pulled maneuvers that should have torn them apart. Their shields are failing on the lead ship, Daniel reported. We're punching through. All batteries concentrate fire, take them down. The flagship shuddered under the sustained assault, its shields collapsing in a cascade of energy. Rounds tore into the hull, ripping through armor and internal systems. Secondary explosions bloomed along the ship's length, and then the entire vessel came apart, debris spinning away in all directions. Commander was not aboard that ship. He had learned from his first defeat and positioned himself in the center of the formation. But as he watched his fleet being torn apart around him, he felt something close to despair. The humans were not just winning, they were dominating. His ships were dying, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Sir, we must withdraw, his tactical officer pleaded again. We have already lost 4 ships. At this rate, the entire fleet will be destroyed. Wanted to refuse, wanted to fight on out of pride and anger. But he was a commander, not a fool. The humans had proven themselves superior in every way that mattered. Technology, tactics, raw aggression, nothing in his arsenal could match them. Signal all ships, he said bitterly. General retreat, jump to hyperspace as soon as you are clear. The remaining ships broke formation and ran, their crews desperate to escape before the humans cut them down. Jason watched them flee, his tactical display showing 4 vessels destroyed, 2 more crippled and drifting, and the survivors scattering in panic. Should we pursue, Captain? Daniel asked. Jason considered it for a long moment. Part of him wanted to hunt them down, finish them off, make absolutely sure they could never threaten anyone again. But his ships had taken damage, his crew was exhausted, and the refugees needed medical care. Negative, he said finally. Let them go. Let them run back to their empire and tell everyone what happened here. Let them spread the word about what humans can do. He opened the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Valiant Actual. Good work. We've won. Secure from battle stations and begin damage control. We're taking our people home. A cheer went up across the 3 ships, crew members celebrating their victory. But Jason did not cheer. He stood at his viewport, looking at the wreckage of the fleet floating in the darkness, and thought about what this meant for Earth's future. Down in the medical bay, Lieutenant Sophie Martinez worked frantically to treat the wounded Marines and civilians. Her staff was overwhelmed, running between beds, stabilizing patients, doing everything they could to save lives. Sophie herself had been working for 6 hours straight without a break, her hands steady even as exhaustion threatened to drag her down. "Doctor, you need to rest," one of her nurses said gently. "After everyone is stable," Sophie replied, moving to the next bed where a young child lay unconscious, burns covering half her body. Sophie's hands moved with practiced skill, applying synthetic skin grafts and adjusting medication dosages. The child's vital signs stabilized, and Sophie allowed herself a brief moment of relief. Across the bay, Sergeant sat on a bed while a medic treated a plasma burn on his leg. He had refused painkillers, wanting to stay alert, and now he was paying the price. The pain was intense, but he had learned long ago how to function through pain. That was part of being human, part of being from you learn to endure. "You know you're crazy, right?" Corporal Helen Price said from the next bed over. Her chest was wrapped in medical tape, her burns treated but still painful. "Running into fire like that to grab that kid." "What was I supposed to do, leave her?" replied. "No, I guess not. That's not what we do." Helen smiled despite the pain. "That's what makes us human." In the refugee section of the ship, sat with and the other survivors, trying to process everything that had happened. They had been saved by creatures they had never heard of, species from a planet they did not know existed. These humans had fought an entire fleet to rescue them, had risked their lives for complete strangers. Elders said quietly, "Why did they come? Why did they fight so hard for us?" Thought about Sergeant's words in the shelter. "We learned not to back down from a fight, and we learned to take care of each other." Those lessons stuck. "I think," said slowly, "that these humans come from a world that taught them to be strong. But more than that, it taught them to use that strength to protect others. They did not come here to conquer or to claim our world. They came because we asked for help, and they believe that is reason enough." "Are all humans like this?" another asked. "I do not know," admitted. "But if the rest of their species is anything like the ones who saved us, then Earth has given the galaxy something it has not had in a very long time: hope." Back on the bridge, Captain Turner received a communication from Earth. Admiral appeared on the screen, her expression unreadable. "Captain Turner, I have received your mission report. You engaged and destroyed a significant portion of the fleet. You rescued all survivors, and you did it without losing a single ship." She paused. "The Council is going to have a field day with this. You've just announced Earth's presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible." "Yes, ma'am. I understand there will be consequences." "Oh, there will be consequences, Captain, but not the kind you're thinking." Admiral smiled slightly. "We've already received 3 more distress signals from other species in nearby systems. Word is spreading fast that there is a new power in the galaxy, one that protects the weak instead of exploiting them. Earth has become something we never planned to be, a beacon of hope for the oppressed." Jason thought about that, about what it meant. Earth had spent so long alone, focused inward, dealing with its own problems. Now, in the span of a week, they had become part of something much larger. "What are our orders, ma'am?" "Bring those home, Captain. Let them tell their story. Let the galaxy hear about what happened at Sanctuary 7. And then prepare yourself because we're going to need you again. There are a lot of people out there who need help, and apparently Earth is in the hero business now." The communication ended, and Jason turned to look at his crew. They were battered, exhausted, some wounded, but they stood tall. They had done something incredible, something that would echo across the galaxy. "Helm," Jason said, "set course for Earth, take us home." As the 3 human ships engaged their hyperspace drives and began the journey back to Earth, Commander limped into Imperial Command. The Council of Warlords waited for him, their faces carved from stone. "Explain your failure," the High Commander demanded. Stood straight despite his injuries. "We encountered a species we have never seen before. They call themselves humans from a planet called Earth. They are unlike anything we have faced. They fight with a savagery that defies description. Their technology is crude compared to ours, but they use it with lethal efficiency. They move faster than our ships, fight harder than our soldiers, and refuse to break no matter how much damage they take." "You are saying that one species defeated 2 of our fleets." "I am saying that we encountered a species, my lord. True, not the soft creatures we usually conquer. And they have chosen to protect the weak species in this region. If we continue aggressive expansion, we will encounter them again. The council members looked at each other, uncertainty passing between them. The Empire had never backed down from a fight in its history, but they had also never faced an enemy quite like this. "What do you recommend?" the High Commander finally asked. "Avoid Earth and its protected space," said simply. "We cannot win against them, not unless we are willing to lose half our fleet trying." The council deliberated in silence. Finally, the High Commander spoke. "Very well. Knew the 3 human ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system 6 days after leaving Sanctuary 7. Word of their victory had traveled faster than they had, carried by the same long-range communications network that had brought the distress signal to Earth. By the time the Valiant, Guardian, and approached Earth orbit, the whole planet knew what had happened. Captain Jason Turner stood at his viewport, watching his home world grow larger. Behind him on the bridge, the crew worked quietly, preparing for docking procedures. They had left as an untested military force, and they were returning as the fleet that had defeated 2 alien armadas and rescued an entire species from extinction. "Captain, Earth Defense Command is signaling," Lieutenant Commander Daniel Hayes reported. "Admiral wants to speak with you directly." Jason nodded, put her through. Admiral appeared on the main screen, and behind her Jason could see the chaos of the command center. Officers rushed between stations. Displays showed tactical plots of Earth's expanded defense grid, and through a window Jason caught a glimpse of new construction. Warships being built in orbital shipyards, dozens of them. "Captain Turner, welcome home," Admiral said. "Congratulations on a successful mission. Bring your ships into dock. We have a lot to discuss." "Yes, ma'am. How are the refugees?" "Medical teams are standing by to receive them. We've prepared housing and support systems. They will have everything they need while we figure out the long-term situation." She paused. "You should know that your actions have created quite a stir. We've received communications from 17 different alien species in the past week. Some grateful, some curious, some very worried about Earth's intentions." "Our intentions were clear, Admiral. We rescued people who needed help." "I know that, you know that. But the galaxy doesn't know us yet, and they're trying to figure out what kind of power Earth is going to be. Come down to headquarters once you've docked. The Council wants a full briefing." The ships docked, and the crew began the process of offloading the refugees. Jason stood at the airlock, watching as and the other survivors stepped onto Earth's orbital station for the first time. They moved slowly, carefully, their large eyes taking in everything with wonder and uncertainty. Held tight to Private Hart's hand as they walked through the station. Had volunteered to stay with them during their transition, helping them adjust to life among humans. The young looked up at with complete trust, and Jason felt a strange pride at that. This was what humanity could be at its best, strong enough to fight, gentle enough to care. "Captain Turner," said, approaching with his translator device, "I want to thank you again. My people owe you everything. We would not have survived without you." "You don't owe us anything," Jason replied. "You sent out a call for help. We answered. That's what neighbors do." "Neighbors," repeated slowly. "I like that word. I hope that is what our people can be, true neighbors." "So do I, Elder, so do I." 2 weeks later, Jason stood before the Earth Defense Council, giving his formal report. The council members listened intently as he described every detail of the mission: the space battles, the ground combat, the rescue operations, and the final engagement with the reinforcements. "And you believe they will honor their retreat?" one council member asked. "I believe they're afraid of us," Jason said bluntly. "They encountered something they weren't prepared for, and it cost them dearly. They'll avoid us now, at least for the foreseeable future." "What about other species?" another council member asked. "You said we've received multiple communications." Admiral stepped forward. 17 different species have contacted us since the Battle of Sanctuary 7. Most are asking if Earth would be willing to establish diplomatic relations. 3 have specifically requested military assistance against aggressive neighbors. The galactic situation appears to be more complicated than we realized. They described a galaxy where aggressive species like the prey on peaceful ones, Jason added. "There's no real galactic government, no unified military force. It's essentially survival of the fittest, and the fittest tend to be the most brutal." "Until we showed up," Admiral said. The council deliberated for hours. Some members argued that Earth should return to isolation, avoid entanglements in alien affairs. Others pointed out that isolation was no longer an option. The galaxy knew about Earth now, and whether humans liked it or not, they had become a player in galactic politics. In the end, the council made their decision. Earth would not seek to build an empire or conquer territory, but they would respond to legitimate distress calls. They would protect species that could not protect themselves. They would be a force for stability and justice in a galaxy that seemed to lack both. "We're going to need more ships," one council member said. "A lot more ships." "Already in production," Admiral replied. 6 new battle groups will be ready within a year. We're also expanding the Marine Corps and training programs. If Earth is going to be a galactic power, we need to be ready for it. While the politicians debated, life continued for the people who had fought at Sanctuary 7. Sergeant returned home to his family, trying to adjust to normal life after the intensity of combat. His wife noticed the change in him, the way he would startle at sudden noises, the nightmares that woke him in the middle of the night. But she also saw the pride in his eyes when he talked about that they had saved, the lives that had been preserved because he and his squad had been there. Major Lisa Brooks stayed on active duty, immediately beginning training exercises for the expanded Marine Corps. She had learned valuable lessons about fighting alien forces, about the differences between human and alien combat capabilities. Those lessons needed to be passed on to the next generation of Marines who would carry Earth's banner into the stars. Corporal Helen Price received a commendation for her actions during the ground combat, her refusal to quit despite her injuries becoming legendary among the Marine Corps. She downplayed it all, insisting she was just doing her job. But when young recruits asked her about fighting on Sanctuary 7, she told them honestly about the fear, the pain, and the absolute certainty that what they were doing mattered. Lieutenant Sophie Martinez continued working in the medical division, now training other doctors in treating alien physiology. They were biologically different from humans in significant ways, and understanding those differences was crucial if Earth was going to provide medical aid to other species. It was challenging work, but Sophie threw herself into it with the same dedication she had shown in the Valiant's medical bay. In the residential section that had been set up in Earth's orbital station, worked with human linguists and diplomats to establish formal relations between Earth and the Council. The government, what remained of it after the attack, had officially requested an alliance with Earth. They offered technology, knowledge, and friendship in exchange for protection. Meanwhile, did something that surprised everyone. She applied to Earth's military academy. When asked why, she said simply, "I want to learn how to protect people the way the humans protected us. I want to be strong like them." The Academy accepted her application, making her the first non-human to attend an Earth military institution. She struggled with the physical requirements, her body not built for Earth's harsh gravity and demanding exercises. But she refused to quit, and her human classmates around her, helping her adapt, pushing her to improve. She became a symbol of something new, the possibility of humans and aliens fighting side by side. 6 months after the Battle of Sanctuary 7, Captain Jason Turner stood on the bridge of the newly christened EDS Defender, the flagship of Earth's Second Fleet. Around him, 5 other battle groups moved into formation, ready for deployment. Admiral had given him command of this expanded force with a simple directive. "Go out there and keep doing what you did at Sanctuary 7. Protect people who need it. Make Earth proud." Lieutenant Commander Daniel Hayes was still his first officer, and Major Lisa Brooks commanded the expanded Marine contingent. It was good to have familiar faces around as they prepared to venture deeper into the galaxy. "Where to first, Captain?" Daniel asked. Jason looked at the star charts displayed on his screen. 3 distress signals had come in just this week, 3 more species calling for help against aggressive neighbors. Earth was committed now, committed to being the protector that the galaxy desperately needed. "We go where we're needed," Jason said. "Plot a course for the system. They reported raiders testing their defenses. Let's remind that Earth keeps its promises." The 6 battle groups engaged their hyperspace drives and vanished from Earth's orbit, heading out into the unknown. Behind them, Earth's orbital shipyards continued their work, building more ships, preparing for a future where humanity would no longer hide from the galaxy. Down on Earth's surface, in a small ceremony at Arlington, 3 Marines who had died at Sanctuary 7 were laid to rest with full honors. Their families stood in the rain, holding folded flags, listening as the honor guard played their final salute. They had died far from home, fighting for people they had never met, and their sacrifice would not be forgotten. At the memorial service held at the same time, spoke to his people about the human soldiers who had saved them. He talked about courage and sacrifice, about a species that chose to fight for others rather than for themselves. And he ended with words that would be carved into a monument that they would build on their new home. On this day, we remember that when darkness came for us and all hope seemed lost, Earth answered. They came not to conquer, but to protect, not to take, but to give. And because of them, we survive. Because of them, we have hope. Let this monument stand forever as a reminder that in a galaxy of predators, humanity chose to be our shield. Across the galaxy, word continued to spread. Earth had entered the galactic stage, and they had done so in a way that no one expected. They were not conquerors or exploiters. They were protectors. The species that could fight harder than anyone else had chosen to use that strength for good. In the Empire, military planners updated their threat assessments. Earth was marked in red on their charts, surrounded by a buffer zone that no ship was to enter without explicit permission from High Command. They had learned their lesson at Sanctuary 7. Humans were not to be trifled with. But in the colonies of peaceful species, in the settlements of those who had lived in fear of aggressive neighbors, Earth became something else entirely. They became hope. They became the answer to the question that had haunted the galaxy for generations: who will protect us? The answer, it turned out, was humanity. The who had evolved in hell, learned to endure anything, and decided that their strength should be used to help others. Earth had received an SOS signal from strangers, and they had responded with everything they had. And they would keep responding, for as long as people needed help, for as long as the innocent needed protection. That was the message Earth had sent to the galaxy, written in the wreckage of fleets and the grateful tears of rescued. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. In his private quarters aboard the Defender, Captain Jason Turner looked at a photo from Sanctuary 7, taken after the rescue. It showed Sergeant kneeling next to, the young holding onto his armored hand, both of them smiling despite the ruins around them. Jason had carried that photo through every briefing, every council meeting, every moment of doubt about Earth's new role in the galaxy. That photo reminded him why they fought. Not for glory or conquest, not for territory or resources. They fought because someone needed help, and humans had decided that was reason enough. He placed the photo back on his desk and turned to face the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, someone was in trouble. Someone was calling for help, and Earth was ready to answer. Because that was what did. They protected. They endured. They never backed down from defending those who could not defend themselves. And when Earth's enemies learned that lesson, they learned it the hard way, with relentless retribution. Directive: all forces are to avoid any system where human ships are reported. We will expand in other directions. Earth and its allies are not to be disturbed. It was the first time in history that they had retreated from an enemy without planning vengeance. But some enemies, they were learning, were simply not worth fighting. The message had been sent, and the galaxy had received it loud and clear. Earth was no longer alone, and humanity was not to be trifled with. "Or forget." "Helm," Jason said, his voice calm and cold. "Take us to them. All weapons free. Show them what happens when decide to fight back." The 3 human ships accelerated toward the reinforcements, and the real battle was about to begin. The dropships launched from the Valiant's belly, streaking down through the atmosphere toward the surface of Sanctuary 7. In the shelters below, they watched in wonder as their rescuers descended from the sky. They did not know what humans were. They did not know about or Earth's brutal evolutionary history. They only knew that someone had heard their cry for help, and someone had come. And that made all the difference. Soon there would be nothing left of Sanctuary 7 but rubble and bones. Another planet claimed for the Empire. Another primitive species eliminated from existence. Commander had no way of knowing that 17 light-years away, 3 human warships were racing toward him at maximum speed. He had never heard of Earth. He did not know what it was. He had no concept of what was coming. He was about to learn,